On today's episode, our Toughest Mudder Midwest recap with men's winner Ryan Atkins.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening to the number one rated obstacle course racing podcast in the world. That is a true story. Check the numbers yourself. Apple Podcasts or Amazon.com will tell you the same. On today's show, we talk Toughest Mudder Midwest with Ryan Atkins. Atkins is the greatest OCR endurance athlete in the world today. We talk about the race in Michigan this past weekend. We talk about TMX this upcoming weekend and a few other topics along the way. Atkins is always good. You know that. Before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheWillHicks, or follow the show on Instagram at World's Toughest Podcast. Can we talk about Twitter for a minute? Look, I get that Twitter is for old people or adults or whatever, but it's amazing. I'm not going to give my personal cell phone number on the podcast, right? That'd be crazy. But anyone can just fire up their old internet machine and go to twitter.com/TheWillHicks and shoot me a message, and it will make the phone in my pocket vibrate. My DMs are open. And if you haven't found us on Instagram, this is a good weekend to do it. We will have boots on the ground, Merrills on the ground at TMX all weekend long. The TMX World Championships are being held on Friday in Virginia. Follow our stories and check out the action from Virginia. That's World's Toughest Podcast on Instagram. So email, Twitter, Instagram. You can be a part of the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and I will read it in a future episode. Thank you for reviewing the show. Let's talk about Toughest Mudder Midwest. Your winners of Toughest Mudder Midwest are Ryan Atkins for the men and Rhea Coble for the women. Atkins ran 50 miles in 7 hours and 54 minutes for his win, and Coble ran 45 miles in 8 hours and 21 minutes for her win. This is the second Toughest Mudder this year that was won by both Atkins and Coble. They also both won Toughest Mudder South in Texas at the beginning of May. Your top 5 women are Rhea Coble with 45 miles in 8 hours and 21 minutes. In second place, Lindsay Webster with 40 miles in 7:44. In third, April Hartwig with 35 miles in 7:23. In fourth, Sam Oleski with 35 miles in 8:12. And in fifth, Kelly Williams with 35 miles in 8:15. In first place was Rhea Coble. Rhea is the women's reigning champion of World's Toughest Mudder. This is Rhea's second Toughest Mudder of the year and her second win of the year. Other than one Spartan race a few months ago, Rhea has not lost a race since her win at World's Toughest Mudder last November. With her result here, Rhea tied the women's Toughest Mudder record set by Lindsay Webster last year at Toughest Mudder South of 45 miles. 4 women have run 45 miles at a Toughest Mudder. Can you name them? Rhea Coble, Lindsay Webster, Allison Ty, and Ulrika Evanson at Toughest Mudder UK this year. Speaking of Lindsay, in second place was Lindsay Webster. Lindsay is no stranger to the Toughest Mudder podium. She won all 3 Toughest Mudders she ran last year. She is still looking for her first win at Toughest Mudder this year, though. In her 2 races this year, she has finished 3rd and 2nd. It looks like the Toughest Mudder series is going to come down to Lindsay versus Rhea versus Allison. Although on the outskirts, Ulrika Evanson has a win already at Toughest Mudder UK Midlands, and she could make some noise if she wants to. In 3rd place at Toughest Mudder Midwest was April Hartwig. April is no stranger to Toughest Mudder and World's Toughest Mudder, although we haven't seen her in a while. April finished 4th at World's Toughest 2016 with 80 miles, and in 5th place at Toughest Mudder West in 2017 with 35 miles. The most common word you will hear to describe April is intense. Well done, April. Welcome back. In 4th place was Sam Oleski. Sam has run World's Toughest Mudder, but she is more active on the Spartan race and terrain race circuits. Among other results, she won 1st place at Terrain Race Pittsburgh in 2017 and 2nd place at the Carolina Spartan Sprint in 2016. This 4th place was her best finish at a Toughest Mudder. In 5th place was Kelly Williams. Like Sam, this is Kelly's first top 5 finish at a Toughest Mudder. Kelly has some impressive wins on her resume, although they are from a few years ago. In 2014, she won 1st place at the Chicago Spartan Sprint and 2nd place at the Miller Park Stadium race. In 2015, she won that Miller Park Stadium race. Your top 5 men at Toughest Mudder Midwest are, in 1st, Ryan Atkins with 50 miles in 7 hours and 54 minutes. In 2nd, Christopher Mendoza with 50 miles in 8 hours and 6 minutes. In 3rd, Jesse Bruce with 50 miles in 8:12. In 4th, Matthew Hansen with 45 miles in 7:36. And in 5th, Nicholas Almond with 45 miles in 7:42. In 1st place was Ryan Atkins. We're going to talk with Ryan about the race in a minute. This is his 6th Toughest Mudder and his 6th win. In those 6 wins, he ran 50 miles in 4 of them. He holds almost every record possible for World's Toughest Mudder and Toughest Mudder. He's never lost a race 8 hours or longer. In 2nd place was Christopher Mendoza. This is Chris's 3rd top 5 finish at a Toughest Mudder and his best performance at a Toughest Mudder by far. Chris is one of 4 men who have run both 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder and 50 miles at a Toughest Mudder. Mendoza finished only 12 minutes behind Atkins. That is the closest Atkins has come to being caught at an endurance OCR race. Jesse Bruce took 3rd place. Jesse won the For Those Who Would OCR Humanitarian Award in 2015 for his work with the homeless of Toronto, Ontario. Well done, Jesse. Nominations are currently open for the 2018 award at forthosewhowould.com. In 4th place was Matthew Hansen. This is Matthew's 2nd straight year to qualify as an elite contender for World's Toughest with a top 5 finish. Last year he qualified at Toughest Mudder Canada, also in 4th place there. In 5th place was Nicholas Almond. Nicholas has done several Toughest Mudders over the last 2 years, including winning the sprint lap at Toughest Mudder Midwest in 2017. His 5th place this weekend is his best finish by far. All 10 of those athletes, the top 5 men and top 5 women, have now qualified as elite contenders for World's Toughest Mudder 2018. They will join the top 5 winners of the previous Toughest Mudders at the front of the start line in Atlanta this November. Let's talk about the rest of the field. I don't really like using the term non-elite. Clearly, there are athletes out there that are better than everyone else, right? Those 10 people we just talked about are clearly elite. I have no problem using that, calling them that. That's not a secret. But calling everyone else non-elite kind of seems wrong too. All I know is there were 500 some people running all night long in Michigan last weekend, and there were millions of people at home asleep in their beds. So who's really non-elite? Anyway, the rest of the field. Before I get into the numbers, if you ran Toughest Mudder this weekend, you should check your race results online and make sure they are correct. Because for a lot of you right now listening that ran this weekend, they are not correct. Just Google Tough Mudder race results and find your way from there. There are a lot of people on that list that supposedly finished with 24 miles or 29 miles or even 44 miles. If your mileage is incorrect, you need to email support@toughmudder.com as soon as possible, and they will help you straighten it out. Don't freak out. It's fine. They will help you fix it. Don't panic. But especially if you were really close to contender status, or maybe you're one of the top 3 men, top 3 women, and you have a chance at the Toughest Mudder Series title, you want to check that and make sure it is correct. I do not work for Tough Mudder. This podcast is not produced by Tough Mudder, and as much as I would like to help you, I cannot help you with your timing chip issues, mileage tracking issues. Please email support@toughmudder.com. Let's talk about the Toughest Mudder Midwest numbers. Overall, 527 runners started the race. 302 completed 25 miles. 57% completed 25 miles. 25 miles is the kind of benchmark number we use to compare the races to each other. Last year, 25 miles for men and for women was the standard to reach to get contender status at World's Toughest Mudder. So everyone wanted to get 25 miles. This year, it's a little bit different. For women, it's 25 miles. For men, it's 30 miles. So even though the benchmark is not exactly the same as last year, we still track that 25-mile number so we can compare year to year. I know it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got. Contender status. 436 men ran the race. Of those 436, 147 men ran 30 miles. 34% of men qualified as contenders. 91 women ran the race. 41 women ran 25 miles. 45% of women qualified as contenders. 188 of 527 qualified as contenders, or 36%. If you want to hear that again, rewind 15 seconds. So how did Toughest Mudder Midwest stack up to the other 3 toughest mudders that have been held so far this year? We're going to get way more into this in a future episode, either the next episode or 2 episodes from right now. But here is the short version. At the first Toughest Mudder this year in Texas, 17% of all runners earned contender status. That's 30 miles for the men or 25 miles for the women. So, Toughest South in Texas, 17% were contenders. Toughest Mudder Australia, 19% earned contender status. Toughest Mudder UK Midlands, 22% earned contender status. Toughest Mudder Midwest in Michigan this past weekend, 36% earned contender status. And I know that probably sounds like a lot compared to 17%, 19%, 22%. But for reference, last year at Toughest Mudder South in Atlanta, 61% of all runners earned contender status. And I know, like we just talked about, the goalposts for contender have moved a little bit, but 36% is not unreasonable, I don't think. It looks like they're trying to keep it more in that, high teens, low 20s%, but I wouldn't freak out about 36% being too many. So congratulations to all of the new contenders and to everyone who ran Toughest Mudder Midwest. Before we talk with Ryan Atkins, let's read some iTunes reviews. Our first review comes from Mama Doza. Mama Doza writes, "Proud Mama, 5 stars. Hey, Will Hicks, I'm not going to lie. I used to only listen to your podcast when you were interviewing or talking about Christopher Mendoza, Chris Mendoza, or Krista Mendoza. I was always entertained, but that's a deep cut. That joke she just put in there, that's a deep, deep cut. I was always entertained, but after running our first Half Mudder as a family and meeting you, I was hooked on listening to all your podcasts. Don't change a thing. I love your pre-show commentary, sense of humor, along with the interviews. I've learned some tips that I'm hoping will come in handy while running our first full Mudder as a family in Scotland. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say next, and can't wait to hear the next interview with Christopher Mendoza. Christopher Mendoza. From Mama Doza. Thank you, Mama Doza. You are too kind. I got to meet Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza, Chris's parents, briefly at Tough Mudder Las Vegas last year, right before they ran their first Tough Mudder half, and then for a longer talk at World's Toughest a few weeks later. You can hear some of our talk in season 2, episode 6, number 63 overall. I don't take any swag for the show. I buy all my own shoes and pickle juice and whatever. The only exception to that rule is the Doza hat Mrs. Doza gave me in Vegas. It's pretty cool. Thank you, Mama Doza, for writing that review and listening, even when I'm not talking about your son. Although it seems like I talk about him a lot, doesn't it? If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Mama Doza, you can leave a review too. On your iPhone or iPad, open the Purple Podcast app and search for World's Toughest Podcasts. Click our logo and then scroll down to click Write a Review. On Android, go to Amazon.com and search for World's Toughest Podcasts. Click Enable Skill and then click Write a Customer Review. And I will read it on a future episode. Thank you for leaving a review. You are awesome. Ryan Atkins is one of the few guests on our show who need no introduction. In case this is your very first time listening to the podcast, Atkins has won the 24-hour World's Toughest Mudder 5 years in a row. 3 times by himself, solo, and 2 times as part of a team, including in 2016 when his team won the race and won a $100,000 bonus prize for completing 100 miles. He has won all 6 8-hour toughest mudders he has run, more than anyone else in the world. He has never lost a race longer than 8 hours. It's time to talk with Ryan Atkins. Let's go to the phones. Ryan Atkins, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
I'm good. You told me you just got out of a movie. What'd you guys go see?
We went and saw the new Star Wars movie, Solo.
What'd you think?
It was pretty good. I mean, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. Yeah.
This past weekend, you won Toughest Mudder Midwest with 50 miles in 7 hours and 54 minutes. How do you feel about the race?
I feel good. It was an interesting race. It was a lot of fun. It was a great course. I really liked. They kind of made the penalty loops apparently harder, and some of the obstacles were fairly tough. So that was good to see, and I think they had a pretty good turnout. So it's wicked to see tons of people out there getting after it.
You say they were apparently tough. You didn't take very many of them?
No, I didn't fail on the obstacles. But I heard they were a bit longer than normal. So that's good.
Yeah, at the start of the race, I've seen you a few times at Toughest Mudder, kind of to the front, off to the side, sitting down. What are you thinking about, or what's going through your head before the race starts?
Oh man, I'm just like, I know it's about to be a big, mental and physical effort. So just any little, saving I can do, and just calm down and try to save any spikes in adrenaline or excitement for hour 4 or something.
Do you get hyped up before the start line, or are you kind of zen right then?
It's pretty hard not to get somewhat hyped up, but I try to stay like Zen master focus mode.
The race started out pretty fast. Tell me about the first lap.
Yeah, I mean, the first lap, they did something different, and they had, I think, 3 or 4 obstacles open instead of just, being a totally dry course. So we got to go through a couple of obstacles. The pace was fairly quick. And then, yeah, I thought Chris and I crossed the finish line together on the first lap, but I guess I crossed the time lap before him, and then I ended up with a green bib.
Talking about the sprint lap bib, the conventional wisdom watching you race has kind of been you start at the back or near the back of the front pack, and then you kind of pick them off one by one. This is the first time you've ever won the sprint lap. Was that a change in strategy or just kind of how it worked out?
No, it's just kind of how it worked out. I always try to run at a pace where it's like an easy conversational pace, and that's just where it kind of ended up.
Do you try and keep that pace the whole time, or do you try and speed up toward the end, or what's your strategy there?
No, keep that pace the whole time. Yeah, you can always pour some, put a couple more logs in the fire towards the end, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to race.
You had more competition this race than you usually do. You, Chris Mendoza, and Jesse Bruce for almost the whole night. What was the race like between the three of you?
I don't really know because I didn't see those guys until I didn't see Jesse the whole race, and I didn't see Chris until Chris and I were together for like the first 3 laps, I think, and then we lost contact. So I was just kind of running along and doing my thing.
I heard about a pit stop near the end where someone told you that you had 10 minutes on Chris, but then someone else told you that you had 3 minutes, like you only had a 3-minute lead. Do you remember that pit stop?
Yeah, I think that was like lap 6 or 7 that came through, and I was like, what's my gap? And someone said 10 minutes, and then I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I came through on the next lap, and they were like, yeah, you know how we told you 10 minutes? It's actually 3 minutes. And then I kind of picked up the pace after that.
You kind of keep some in the tank so you can turn it on when you need to?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think my second last and my last lap was like my fastest, lap was in like the first 2 where there's like fewer obstacles closed, and my second last lap was only a few seconds slower, so they were definitely, quicker. I felt pretty good. Had some reserves there.
You have won Toughest Mudder 6 times now. What is it? What do you feel like crossing the finish line? Is it old hat, or you still get that adrenaline when you finish?
No, I mean, anytime you run for 8 hours, especially with that many obstacles and that kind of excitement, it's a big, feeling of accomplishment when you cross the finish line. So I was just, elated and stoked and happy to stop running, but just happy. Came and set out and did what I set out to do. So, yeah.
I heard something happened with your bottle of post-race champagne. Like you threw it away, and Crit Mendoza wanted to drink it or something.
Yeah. I mean, after Whistler Toughest last year, I drank like my bottle and Lindsay's bottle of champagne, and that was a big mistake because I was pretty hammered afterwards. She says it was great, but so yeah, I kind of drank some champagne and then was kind of done. So I carefully placed the bottles like upwards so they wouldn't spill, but in the garbage. And then Chris was scrounging around. He's like, "Where's that champagne?" He wanted to get crunk, obviously. So I was like, "Well, I think they're still in the garbage, so you should go after them." And he was like, what's that guy from Oscar the Grouch who goes in the garbage can? He went right over there, got a champagne and started pounding it back. So yeah, love that guy.
Just trash champagne.
Oh yeah, totally.
You've run 50 miles at Toughest Mudder, 4 of those 6 wins. Nobody else has done it more than once. Do you prefer the 8-hour format, or do you like the 24 hours better?
Well, I don't know. They're both, very challenging. I think 24 hours is obviously more challenging, but it's a slower pace, so it's a little less intense. So there's that. They're just different beasts, I guess. But they're both a heck of a lot of fun.
Do you still have fun doing these? I mean, you're doing them all the time. It's still fun to you?
Yeah, it's awesome.
What about these shorter races that you do sometimes, like the 10 miles or 13 miles? Do you still have fun, or is it more of a job there?
No, I think the shorter races are super fun. They're kind of more intense. So yeah, you're you have to be sharp for them, because there's it seems to be a lot more guys who are willing to run for an hour or two than guys that kind of want to put it all out there for 8 hours, because I guess they're just not as tough or something. But so there's just more guys who are just hungry for those shorter, easier races, and so yeah, you have to be pretty sharp to win them, but they're still pretty sweet.
I heard Tim Ferriss say once that you should set your goals ridiculously high, because those ridiculous goals, there's less people trying to do those, so you actually have less competition at that level.
Huh. That's pretty cool kind of idea. I don't totally believe in goals. I think that if you just go out and do your best every time and always try to beat that and beat yourself and perform to your maximum, then good things will happen. So I think people who are always kind of setting goals are always kind of looking into the future to what they want to accomplish, or kind of projecting themselves, and then when they get there and they achieve a goal, they're kind of left with this empty feeling, instead of always just striving to be the best version of yourself.
How do you, if you don't set goals, how do you decide what you want to work toward?
Well, I take events that I want to focus on and do well, but usually those are kind of extensions of where I'm already at, and just with things that I love doing and am motivated to do anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So, you don't say, well, but you do say, I want to win World's Toughest Mudder this year. But you wouldn't consider that a goal, more the next thing?
Yeah, I guess so.
What about 10 years from now? Do you ever think hey, here's where I want to be, or I want to, or is it more let's just take it 1 year at a time kind of thing?
Yeah, I can't even think of where I'll be in 10 years. I'll probably have some little, regret running around, or who knows, or maybe Lindsay and I will be dominating the world somewhere else. But
you guys,
it's going to be great. I know that much. So
you've kind of been dominating for 2 or 3 years now together, the super team you got going on there.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty good.
Have you guys thought about having a super OCR baby?
Yeah, we've talked about it. I don't think we're ready for it just yet.
Your next race is this weekend at the TMX World Championships. Will you be recovered by race day?
Ooh, baby, that's going to be spicy. Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'll probably be, 95%. So we'll see where that takes me. It'll be interesting.
Do you think 95% is enough to beat Hunter McIntyre?
It might be. I don't know.
Tough Mudder has brought in a bunch of ringers, a bunch of CrossFit guys this year. What do you think about that?
I think it's kind of cool. I think it's, that almost puts more pressure on me than anything, just because, I don't know, I think that, endurance sports and endurance training is just so much, better and cooler than CrossFit. So, Hunter and I kind of have to come out and defend that theory. Whereas, but then I'm super tired from running it for 8 hours last weekend. So, but yeah, I'll do the best job I can to hold down for all those endurance junkies out there.
I watch you and I watch Hunter on Instagram. You guys have very different training styles. He's in the gym it seems 8 hours a day, while you're going to Mount Everest and hiking for 3 weeks. How is this? Yeah. How do you plan your training, or is it just kind of like what's next kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm sure you probably think that a lot of my training is very haphazard and stuff, but there is a method to the madness. I think that if you just have a really good base of fitness, and then you just kind of sharpen and tweak those elements for specific events that you want to do, then that's a pretty good way of, performing really well across a wide variety of demands. But yeah, I definitely want to do the best in one single event. You really have to hone your focus on that for they say about 6 weeks of specific focus is ideal. And I definitely haven't done that for TMX, but I've done the best I can. And the time and motivation for an event like this that I have, and I think I'll do well.
What are your next few races after TMX?
Oh boy! After TMX, gonna go to Whistler and race the tougher out there. Gonna head out with Lindsay and a buddy of mine. We're gonna do some climbing, some mountain biking, do the tougher mudder. That'll be a lot of fun. And then the week after is gonna be the double race with Chicago, the Spartan there, and the Boston that same night, which will be interesting. And then after that, I've got a little bit of a break in July. I'm doing like a sky race, like the July 1st, Canada Day. But that's like just a super fun local race down at Whiteface. So that's like I'm really excited to do that one. And then maybe go climb some mountains in July. Might go do some climbing on Mount Rainier or some mountains out in the Rockies or something like that. So yeah, it'll be wicked.
That double weekend is going to be pretty crazy to watch. You're going to run the Spartan Super Saturday morning in Chicago.
Yeah.
Then you're flying to Boston and then running the toughest mudder 8-hour on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Too bad like Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon don't exist, because they could just whisk me from one event to the next, and that'd be pretty nice. But
that's gonna be
never done an event like that.
That's gonna be a crazy weekend.
Yeah. I think it'll be a really cool challenge. I've never, I've raced double weekends, but I've never done, a U.S. Championship Series race, which is like a fairly serious Spartan race, and then like a toughest mudder, which is a fairly serious event in its own right. So doing the double header will be pretty interesting. And I really want to get at least 45 miles there in Boston. So that's like the plan. We'll see how that goes.
Do you have any plans to run toughest mudder Berlin?
Not really. I'm hoping that I can do well enough in Boston to not do Berlin, but maybe I will.
Ryan, what sponsors are you working with these days?
So right now we're working with Human to the Power of N, who they're the makers of Beat Elite, and they help us out with a lot of our nutrition and on that side of things. They're really great to work with. We're also working with Tough Mudder. We're like Tough Mudder Pro Team athletes, which is pretty cool, an exclusive group. We're also working with Merrill Footwear and Go Tough with Jim Campbell there, and I'm forgetting someone. Marina Sport, and they make our compression tights that we Lindsay and I both race in. Those are we really like those. I think they're the kind of the best compression tights. So we've been using those for many years now.
You mentioned Merrill. What kind of shoes do you like to race in?
I really like their Agility Peak 2 shoe. And I know they're kind of tweaking them for next year, and they're going to be even better. So, yeah, those are a great shoe.
How can people find you on social media?
Man, they can go on over to the Instagram and find me at Ryan Atkins Diet. And, follow me there. And there's like a Facebook page, just Ryan Atkins Athlete or something like that, which I try to post links to my blog if anyone's interested. Yeah.
Ryan, do you have any last thoughts? Toughest Mudder Midwest or anything else?
Man, Toughest Mudder Midwest, it was a great race. It was really cool. I just love those overnight formats. I love, starting the race in the dark and then having that, light where everything's kind of revealed outside of a headlamp. Kind of narrow tunnel vision, and I think that moment is just like always so surreal. And I think it's really awesome that so many people are coming out to these events, and dabbling in the ultra distance and doing it with an obstacle race. It's so cool, and it'd be cool if a lot of like ultra runners would kind of come out and try some of these races, because I think they'd think they're pretty cool and inspiring as well.
I think that the toughest mudders are a lot more friendly for the ultra runners than the Spartan races would be, as far as the obstacles that they have.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
And you're right about the sunrise. That's like the most, like it gets kind of dusky, and then there's a little bit of light, and then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, boom, the sun's like way overhead.
Yeah, and you're like, wow, where did that happen? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if anyone hasn't tried the toughest mudder, they should check them out. They're really cool events.
Ryan Atkins, thanks much.
Hey, thanks a lot, Will.
Special thanks to Ryan Atkins for appearing in this episode. Well done, Ryan. Good luck at TMX this weekend. Don't forget to check out our stories on Instagram. We will have live coverage, Merrill's on the ground at TMX. That's on Friday, not Saturday, for TMX. Also, special thanks to my anonymous correspondent for the champagne story, Tip. Well done, anonymous correspondent. I talked with Atkins after our interview, and I asked him about Iceland. He said he's either going to do it or not do it. So, we'll see. We're going to do a deep dive into all of the toughest mudder numbers and stats in an upcoming episode. I'm already working on the numbers now. There are some good stories in those numbers. Stay tuned for that. Don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's time. Do it. I will see you next time. Go spend time with someone you love.